right now I am in southern Germany outside of the Bavarian town of Berchtesgaden. And when people think of Berchtesgaden, usually the first thing that comes to mind is Hitler's eagle's nest. And while that is one of the more, I guess, dramatic features and dramatic construction projects here in the Obersalzberg area, Hitler was up there only a handful of times. I've heard as low as 10, as high as 14. Where most of his major decisions were made outside of Berlin was right here at this place where I'm heading today, at the Berghof. Okay, quick disclaimer before we get to exploring today. We're going to have to use our imaginations a little bit. The Berghof and the Obersalzberg area was heavily bombed on April 25th of 1945. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But much of the structures around here were completely destroyed. The Berghof itself was heavily damaged, and in the early 50s was completely destroyed. So there are still things that we can see, and parts of these structures that we can still make out and learn from. So anyway, just a quick disclaimer before we get going today. Well, if we are going to talk about the Berghof, we might as well start at the beginning. We're going to get up to the Berghof site itself here in just a moment. But for Hitler and anyone who would have been visiting the Berghof, well, this is the road that you would have ascended to get up to the Berghof site. And if we would have been here in the 1930s or 1940s, well, there would have been an SS guardhouse right here. Let me jump up here and see if I can maybe fall down. So there would have been, like I said, an SS guardhouse right here, and then stretching across the road there would have been a wooden gate to kind of check people before they went up this road. We've moved up the hill a little bit, and we are looking in the direction that we just came from. So cars coming up to the Berghof would have come up this hill, and you would have come around a bend, and right here where these vehicles are parked, going up that way would be the driveway for the Berghof. Now we're going to come back here in just a second. Something else that I wanted to show is this building right here. This is the Zum Türken. This opened as a hotel in 1911, and after Hitler purchased the area where the Berghof currently is, well, this became a site of particular interest to him, and he, in later years wanted to purchase it. The owner wouldn't sell, and when Hitler assumed power in 1933, well, they just arrested the guy and then took the property. It was turned over to Martin Bormann, if I remember correctly, who was the secretary for Hitler, and turned into kind of a headquarters for the Reich Security Service, or the RSD. So yeah, here is the Zum Türken, and one thing that would make this really an attractive spot it sets up higher than the Berghof. So security could kind of have an overwatch over, Hitler's home. They could see anybody coming up this drive. And there was also an extensive bunker system that connected this building to the Berghof. Okay, back down now to the end of the driveway. And again, as I mentioned, a lot of this area was destroyed, but you can still see some remnants. So right here, you can see a stone wall that would have been the edge of the driveway here at the Berghof. And let me get around these vehicles here. As we come up here, well, the driveway would have curled around, and right up through here, this is the road that would have taken you, or the driveway that would have taken you to the Berghof. So Hitler's armored Mercedes would have made its way right up through here. Okay, we're making our way up the driveway now, and you might be asking yourself, why this spot? Why was this area so important? Well, it was in this general vicinity, not far from here, where Hitler finished his book Mein Kampf. And in the late 20s, he was able to purchase a house up here called the Wachenfeld House, and really became attached to the area and the view and just the ambiance of this area. And in 1933, had an opportunity to purchase this property and then put it under a lot of renovations and really turn it into his second headquarters here in Germany. Okay, we are approaching the end of the driveway, not all the way to the end, so there would have been a garage up ahead of us. I'm going to try and throw in some archival photos and things like that to show where we are. But the vehicles would have stopped here, and then there would have been a set of steps that would have ascended up to the Berghof site. So if we walk up here, we might be able to see some of those steps. A lot of this area was buried. Yeah, look at here. Okay, so here is one of the steps that would have been kind of at the top of the staircase. And that would have brought you right up here to Hitler's Berghof. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there's nothing really left of the Berghof itself. It was destroyed. On April 25th of 1945, the RAF had a huge bombing raid of the Obersalzberg, targeting this area in case Hitler tried to get out of Berlin and come down here and continue the resistance and continue the war effort. The building was heavily damaged. Whenever the guys from the 3rd Infantry Division got here, I think they were a little bit disappointed that the whole thing was kind of blown up. And then in the early 50s, well, they completely leveled this structure and blew it up. But we still have a bit of a footprint of the building in the form of this retaining wall and a few other ruins. So again, what we are looking at is the retaining wall that would have been on the back side of the Berghof. And when this site was destroyed in the early 1950s, the reason that they didn't destroy the retaining wall is, well, it's kind of holding up the side of the mountain right now. So there would be a little bit of slippage of the earth down into the road below, which would be a little bit inconvenient. So this is kind of the footprint of the Berghof. Again, the original building that Hitler would have rented was renovated and expanded upon so that he could entertain guests and also sit here with other members of the Nazi leadership and form their plans for the Third Reich. Okay, now again, we are really going to have to use our imaginations here. Where I am standing is the exact spot where the great room of the Berghof would have been. So out here you would have had like a red carpet, you would have had white walls with kind of a wood paneling at the bottom. If we were to look up at the ceiling, there would have been like this wooden lattice work structure. And at the back of the great room would have been a red marble fireplace. This is the exact spot where the fireplace stood. So in this room, lots of important historic meetings took place. Again, I'm not saying that they were good, but they were historic. Neville Chamberlain was entertained in this room. Benito Mussolini, many heads of state came right here to the Berghof. Let me show you something else. So out here, this area would have been the front of the house. And I might have to do a little bit of looking. Yeah, okay, right over here. There, with that brickwork right here, that's one corner of the house. And then it would have extended about 9 meters in this direction. You would have had this amazing view out here, and I'm looking, yeah, right here. Here is the other corner of the house. So you can see right here's the corner. And I'm gonna come back up here. If you would have stood right here, well, you would be looking out the great window of the Berghof. There were 90 individual panes. It was this giant window that could retract down into the basement, so then you'd have like this open air view. And right out here, Hitler could look, you can kind of see where there's this little V shape. Over there is Austria. So he could sit here in Germany at the Berghof and look into his homeland. Okay, now again, let me orient us as to where we are. Right here is the corner of the house. Right here is that giant window that retracts down into the basement. Now, there is a lot of video footage and photos and things like that that people commonly attribute to being taken at the Eagle's Nest. It was actually right here at the Berghof, taken in this spot where I'm standing now on the terrace. Now, as many people know, Hitler had a mistress by the name of Eva Braun. And somewhere along the line, Eva Braun got a hold of a video camera. And there are a lot of pieces of video footage that were shot right here in this very spot where I am standing. So you can find these in the U.S. National Archives. They have the originals of Eva Braun's footage and have it available online. But lots of pictures here that were taken. One that we will be taking a look at in an episode of American Artifact. But yeah, Hitler would have spent a lot of time with dignitaries and other members of the Nazi leadership right here in this spot. Now, earlier in the video, we were talking about the driveway that came up to the Berghof. The terrace would have set above the driveway, and here is the area of the garage. So after, dropping people off, this right here is the area that they would have pulled into. You can see it is all filled with debris and rubble, and right here is the outer wall. Okay, so the terrace would have been right up there. Now, you might wonder how I know all of this stuff. Well, it's not because I'm the smartest guy in the world. I just hang around with people who are smarter than me. There's a guide here in Berchtesgaden who is the best. His name is Tom Lewis, who showed us a bunch of this stuff. So we are indebted to him. And I'm going to put his information up at the end of the video where you can get in contact with him if you ever come to Berchtesgaden. He seriously knows everything. Okay, now again, I'm at the back end of the Berghof area, close to the retention wall. One thing about the Obersalzberg is there are tunnels and bunker complexes everywhere. Unfortunately, we can't access any of them. But right here in this corner, and I can see some rebar that might kind of be where the access was, but there was access to an escape tunnel that's probably about 2-3 yards under the surface, and then would continue down even further into the earth and then exit kind of off in this direction. So we're going to make our way down the hill now and take a look at where Hitler's escape hatch, I guess you could say, would have been here at the Berghof. I'm making my way down to where the emergency escape would have exited, and real quick, take a look at this. I mentioned how on April 25th of 1945 the RAF launched a bombing raid of the Obersalzberg. Well, the Berghof, of course, was a prime target, and this is one of the bomb craters. Very interesting. All right. Ooh, I've got a feeling that people are going to be watching this with great interest. Not for the history, but to see if old JD is gonna slip in this mud and fall on his butt. And there we go. Okay, made it. And looky here. There is the exit to Hitler's escape tunnel here at the Berghof. So the Berghof is going to be up the hill and off probably 100 yards, I'm guessing. And oh man, boy, this is a little bit of a bog right here. Hitler was going to get his feet muddy getting out of this place. But anyway, yeah, here you can see pretty heavy duty steel door, and of course we can't go in there. But if we could, well, we'd get into this series of tunnels, and there would be machine gun positions set up to guard the entrance. Oh my gosh. My shoe just got really nasty. There would have been machine guns, like a three-man machine gun team, a couple spotters and a machine gunner that would be guarding the tunnel. And then if we look over here, I think what we are looking at is some remains of the security fence. Yeah, that is cool as heck. All right, well, there you go. Those are just some of the remnants of Hitler's Berghof right here in the Obersalzberg. All kinds of interesting things here to explore. Even though the structure is not here, it's interesting to bring pictures here and try and line them up and put yourself in the place of some of the U.S. soldiers who would have approached this in May of 1945. But anyway, for now, we are heading on to the next place.